I think it's very important for us to have idea before we go into the data analysis aspect. Now, the roadmap, I don't know if you can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
okay.
I can see your screen.
Okay, so now, I think after today, then the next lecture, probably we are going to kick off from this roadmap that I showed you guys last week, because this one is the first library, because like I told you, the data science aspect or data analysis in Python is solely dependent on the library that you are using. So once you master yourself with those libraries and the library functions on each of these, you will know how to manipulate your data, do the exploration, evaluation, the modeling, and the presentation. So basically, we are going to follow each of these libraries, what we'll be calling at every point to teach you what happens there with our data. So I think after today's class, I'll send the data we'll use for our subsequent classes to Stanley so that we're able to share on our individual email. So today we are going to our Google Colab. So most of what we do today is Google Colab. So the main goal for those that don't have idea of programming, main goal of what we want to cover today is for you to be able to know variable data types and built-in functions. Now, for those that have idea before, maybe if you have not worked with Python before, so there are some what we call container data types that Pythons use. There are some programming languages that don't actually make use of them. So some terminologies, I think we are used to function. I've explained function last week. Then syntax. Most of things you will learn here when you want to communicate with the computer in this environment is for you to know the structure of what you are giving the computer to understand. So those that design the Python already have a defined syntax that we need to learn to know so that we follow that rule to communicate with the environment. So if you go beyond that, the environment will not understand what you're saying. So we also have to, in every action we are going to take here, I have to show you first the syntax before we now take that action. So another thing, word here is keyword. Keyword is like a reserved word. This reserved word has a predefined stuff that they perform in Python. So as the subsequent classes, I'll show you those things that are keyword and how they function. Now, another thing is comments. So when you're writing your Python code, or even in every programming language, there's what we call comments. The comment is like to give more explanation on your line of code. It's not a must, but it's always advisable to put up comments in your code. Sorry. So in Python, any statement that you put after using this hash sign, computer will not execute that part. Computer will assume that what you are putting down is a comment. So we'll be using some of those things in some of our code today. So we are starting with variable. So when we talk about variable, like the definition here, it says like a container or a name that stores data or a variable. For example, in your data analysis, when you have a data that you want to work with, You have to first of all put that data inside a container, inside a variable, and now manipulate those data through that variable that you created for it. And in real life scenario, like we have been doing last week, so that you will grab more on how these things work. Like I do tell my students, is a name given to you by your parents is a variable name. And you that is answering that name is like a value assigned inside that particular variable name. That is why in your house, when they call, for example, say Chebozo, the person that we answer is not that particular letter. CHIBUZ is not what we answer. What we now answer is you, because you have been assigned inside that particular variable, so that anytime we call that variable, the value will be what that will answer. So this is the same thing that happens in Python. Any value you assign inside a variable, at any time in your code that you refer to that variable name, what the computer will be seeing value, not really the variable name that you are giving to it. I hope you guys are with me. Hello, guys. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We're here with you.
Okay. Yeah. So now in Python programming, when you want to make use of variable name, this is the syntax. From here, you can see something like variable name equals to value. This equal to is like an assignment operator. What it implies when you make use of this equal to is that any value you put in the right-hand side should be assigned inside a variable that you created in the left-hand side. So that is what happens. That is the syntax or the rule that it follows. You cannot put your variable name by the right and put the value by the left. The computer will not understand what you are saying. So in assigning a value to a variable name, the variable name has to be in the left part, whereas your value be in the right part. So for example, you can see some of examples we have here, which is we have age, we assign 70 inside age. For the name, we have very dark man assigned inside name. CGPA, we have this assigned inside CGPA. Gender, we have this assigned inside gender. What this thing implies is that in your code, anytime you call on age, what that will appear to represent age is 70. So if somewhere in your code you are trying to refer what is age of so person, what the computer will be seeing as age anytime you call the variable name age is the 70. Anytime you call name, the computer will be seeing this very dark man, and so on and so forth. So now, for this your variable name, it is not any letter or any word that you just see that you use to make up your variable name. In Python programming, there is a laid down rules. Sorry, my camera. One minute, so I'll fix my camera. Sorry for the interruption. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes, we can see your screen.
So sorry for the interruption. So, like I said, for the variable, when you want to create a variable name that you want to assign a value in your Python programming, there are laid down rules that you must obey. If not, if you don't follow that rule, the computer will be seeing what you are performing as an error. It will be throwing some error when you are putting up your code. So these particular rules must be obeyed when you want to form a particular variable name. The number one rule here says that your variable names, it can contain letters, numbers, and underscore, which implies that the only special character that is accepted is only underscore. You cannot be using something like at, hyphen, asterisk. All those things cannot appear on your variable name. Any characters that you can use to form a variable name must be normal alphabets that we have, numbers, and underscore. You can use combination of these three to form your variable name. And also the second rule here says that the first thing that will start your variable name must be a letter, that is an alphabet or an underscore. You cannot use a number to start your variable name. If not, the computer will throw up an error for you. The third one said you cannot use a special character or space. Maybe, for example, you want to create a variable name, maybe someone's first name. You cannot put first space name as a variable name. The computer will see it as an error. So maybe if you want to say first name, you might use an underscore and say first underscore name. Two things must be together for the computer to understand. Now, for your variable name, it is case sensitive. What it means is that if you are using capital letter A for age in creating your variable name, you must maintain with the capital letter. If you at some point change to small letter, the computer will not understand the information you are passing across. Now, it must not be a reserved word. Like I said earlier, reserved words are like keywords that they have a particular task they help us to perform in this environment. I'll still show you some example of our result. Now, this last one, people do make mistake of this last rule, which is avoid using a function names as your variable name. Because most of the built-in function, if you use it as your variable name, the computer will accept it. But now, when you are now calling that built-in function to perform that task it's meant to perform, it cannot work again in your environment because the computer will not be seeing it as a function. It will not be seeing it as a variable name. I'll still show you guys some examples. So some of these examples here is those variables name that are invalid. For example, you say one name. Our variable name is not meant to start with a number. So you cannot use one name. This is invalid. My name, you cannot put space, not allowed. Like this del is a reserved word in Python programming, and you cannot use it as a variable name. Now, this print is a reserved, is a function, a built-in function in this environment. So it is not allowed to be used as a variable name. So this is print function. This print function is, sorry, any question before I proceed? Any question? Okay. Let me assume that we are together. So the print function here, at any point you intend to display something to the console. What I mean by displaying to the console is that you want to print something to the screen, because when you are performing your data analysis, you have to be printing, showing, displaying on your screen in so many things. So there are some things that when you want to view what exactly is happening, or when you want to see the content of a variable in some certain task, you have to use this print function to print out something on your console. Now, the three ways we can make use of this print function is when you print, because the print function comes with the word print and this parentheses. So any sentence, word, or letter you put inside this parentheses and you enclose it inside a double or single quotation mark, the computer will still print it that same way it is. For example, see what I mean by that. If I should use the word print, and inside here, I'll put double quotation mark. If I say welcome, anytime I execute, if you want to execute, you click on this button that looks like to play. So when you click on it, the computer have displayed the word welcome, because when we're using this function, anything enclosed inside double quotation mark, inside that parenthesis, the computer will still print it that same way that it is. Now, another way we can make use of this print function is maybe we want to see a content of a particular variable. Let's say, for example, we have something like, we created a variable called age, and we assign 100. So when we tell the computer to print age, what the computer will display for us is 100, which is the content of that particular variable. Are you guys with me? Okay. So which is the content of that variable? So another way we can use it is that we can make use of both when we enclose in double quotation mark and also when we have a variable name. That is using two of them together. For example, we might decide to print something like print my age is age. So this particular one, we are the one that imputed this particular sentence in double quotation mark, and this one is a variable name. So when you execute this, the computer will print it, my age is, you will pick the content of that particular age. And also, another way in Python, where if you don't want to make use of print and you want to display something on the console, you can also bring in and call only the variable name. For example, here that we have age equals to 100, you can just say computer, show us age. If you put only the variable name, the computer will still display the content to you. So in two ways, as we are going down, I can use the print to show you something on the screen, or also we can just call the name for the computer to print the content. So when you execute this, the computer will still print out 100 for you. So do we have any question? Okay, I can see someone's hand.
Hey, I have a question. Good evening.
Okay, good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. You said that another way we can run the out. Use the variable. What if we have like 3-4 lines of code? Would that still work?
If you call the variable name,
For example, no, what I mean is we have like 3 to 4 lines of codes.
okay.
Maybe we want to run a code to convert maybe Celsius to Fahrenheit. And then
Okay.
in the last line of the code, after if can we, is there any other way we can run it without using print? I don't know if my question is clear.
Yeah, when you want to, anything you're converting there must be a variable name that will be capture anything you're performing. Let me give you an example. If I understood your question, let me, assuming that we want to add two numbers, we want to perform something. Maybe we have something like first number is equals to 90. Second number equals to 100. If we want to add these two numbers, there must be a variable that will be holding the summation of first number and the second number. So anything you want to print out now will be this sum that you just have to put. You don't have business with others because everything here have been summed and put inside here. I don't know if I answered. Is that what you're asking? Hello?
That's what I'm asking.
Okay, yes. So you don't put the value
because I
on
can
the
see
end.
that you already concatenated.
No, what we did here is just like a sort of summation. We want to sum two numbers. So we are summing the first number and second number. So anytime you're summing, you don't put it on the end. There must be a variable that will hold it so that anytime you call that variable, it will show you the summation of the two.
Okay, maybe I'll give it a try.
Okay. But most times, best practice so that we'll have, sometimes when we just print out a value, it doesn't make good sense. So in most cases, we'll make use of this print so that we can explain what the output is all about.
All right.
Yeah. So I think this is the major thing you need to know about variables. Any question? Okay. Now, we'll talk about data type. The major concept of what happens in the data type, or what we meant to know in the data type, is that anytime you hear about data type, is that we are checking what type of data are we putting inside that particular variable name. What type of, because every data has a particular type. So in Python, we have so many data types, but I just selected this one, which I think is one of the important ones that you need to know, even though you can still research to know more. So we have integer, float, Boolean, string, list, dictionary, tuple. Now, from this list, dictionary, tuple, we do refer to this one as a container type. Later, we explain what we mean by container type. So, but this integer, people that have been working in other programming language should be familiar with integer, float, Boolean, and string. So before we move further, there is another built-in function that is very important for us to know. This is type function. What this type function does is that it helps you to know kind of data type that you are working with, because in data analysis, it's always important for you to know the data type of any column in your data, so that you know if you can perform a mathematical or any arithmetic operation on them. Because you will not come, maybe assuming now that something like a column that contains people's name, and you are not aware that data types there is not something like whole numbers where you can add or find the mean. And you now be telling the computer to go and give you the mean of people's name. So computer will not understand what you are saying. So it's better for you to have idea of the data type that you are working with in each column. So one of the functions we do use to check data type, the type of data in your variable, is what we call this type function with this parenthesis. So how it works is that you input the variable inside this parenthesis, and computer will tell you the type that variable, that particular data inside the variable is all about. So we are starting with the first. We are starting with the first data type, which is integer. This integer type is all about whole numbers. Whether the whole number is positive or negative, as long as that number don't have decimal part, we refer to such data as an integer. And the syntax for the integer is your variable name equals to any integer you want to impute. For example, here that we have age is equals to 40. So this 40 here is not a decimal point. It does not have a decimal point. It's a whole number. So we'll refer to such as an integer. So assuming that we don't know the content of this age and we want to know the type of data that is inside, you can use the type built-in function where you just type the type and you put the age inside and they execute. So when you execute, find out that the computer printed int to tell you that the content or the value that is inside this age is an int type. So if it is an int type and it's a numeric data type, which it implies is that you can perform some mathematical or arithmetic operations on them. When I mean arithmetic operation, is for you to find the mean, median, and so on and so forth. Any question? Okay. So now the next data type we have here is what we call float. Float data type is when you have a value that has a decimal part. Even if you have 1.0, for the fact there is points and other numbers follow, we refer to such as a float. For example, is the one we have in your screen, and the syntax is when you have your variable name is equals to the value you want to assign to the variable. So this is a float type of data. So when you execute this, so if we use the type built-in function and put our CGPA for us to know the content, find out that the computer will display float. For you to know that the type of data that is inside is what? Float. The next data type we have is what we call the Boolean. What the Boolean does is it only have two values, which is true or false. So that is the two values that is used when you are making use of a Boolean data type, or that represents a Boolean data type. So for this place that we made use of is active, this is a variable name, and we assign true. Or you can also assign false. You can also assign false, so that when we check the type of data inside here, computer will tell us that is Boolean. This bool is also Boolean, for you to know that the type of value that is inside there is Boolean, true or false. Subsequent as we go, even in data analysis, you will see where we make use of this data type. So the next one we have is what we call the strange data type. Anytime you have a collection of even a single character in Python, is referred to as a string. That is a string with one character. We don't have any special data type called character in Python. So once you have a single character or collection of single character, refer to that particular data as to have a type called string. And when you want to assign such data into a variable, you must enclose that data in double quotation mark or single quotation mark for the computer to know that this particular data is a strange value. For example, here we have my name is Chinedu. We use the single quotation mark. Whether you use single or double, the computer will understood perfectly well that what you are assigning is a strange value. So here, when we execute, if you ask the computer what is the type of name, to tell you str, which means string. Even if you have a single value and execute, computer will still tell you that it is what? A string, because in Python, be it a single character or collection of character, is also known as string. So what if we have something like this? What are we going to call this? What would the computer produce as this data? Can someone help us? Assuming we execute something like this, which data type will the computer bring out here? If we should execute this code, since our name is equals to 3.90.
String. String.
Why?
Because it's in a quotation mark, so it's quoting, letting you know that that is the name of that particular, I don't know how to put it, but it's the name. Yeah.
So for the fact that we enclosed it inside the double quotation mark, computer is not seeing this as a float. It is seeing it as a strange data type. So that when you execute, it will give you string. Because even your 3 is a character, all these things are still character. It's like when you still have something like at 1, 2, 3, 4. All these things are collection of character enclosed in a single quotation or double quotation. So when you execute, computer will still see it as a string. Any question? Okay. So another type of data we have is what we call the non-type. Non-type is something you added inside a variable name is none. It's a sort of empty. So computer will see such as a non-data type because we have a non-value you can use to represent when you don't have anything adding inside particular variable name. That's why we use this none. So when you execute this and ask the computer what is the type of this, computer will tell you that it is a non-data type. So like when we are talking about rules for creating our variable name, assuming that we use something like this ego as our variable name, and when we want to check the type, we now make use of capital letter. These two things are not the same. If you execute this, computer will display error, that name error, which implies that the name ego is not defined. The computer don't understand this ego. So you have to be careful to know, because this is case sensitive. If you are using a small letter, you have to know that it is small letter. Because now we can easily see it because we are just running one single line of code. Sometimes you might be confused when you have many or maybe more than 20, 50, 100 lines of code. At some point, you might be confused. So take note of your variable names to call the right variable when you want to make use of them. So non-data type.
Okay. Mr. Chino, so Ibuka is asking, at what point do we use integers, and at what point do we use floats?
Okay, if with respect to data analysis, when they give you a data and you are checking, when you have to explore the data for you to know what and what is inside the data, we always check each individual column to know the data type. And when you know the data type, it determines the kind of task or functions you can apply to them. Since our own duty is to work with data, not us creating the data, because something like float now will be used for maybe CGPA in your school. That is when you make use of float. Then when you're talking about, you're getting only someone's age, or maybe something like phone number, something that you know is made up of a whole number, you make use of integer. But in your data analysis, you don't actually decide the data type, but you have to check to know the data type to know what you are working with. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay. So before we move to the container data type, there are two keywords that is very important for us to know before we move to these data types. When we say that something is mutable or immutable, when we say it's mutable, what it means is that the value can be changed after you have created it. When you create something, you can still change that value of what you created. But when we say it is immutable, means that once you create this, you cannot alter the values in Python. So I will show you some of the data types here that is mutable and the ones that are not mutable. Now remember that these ones, we refer to them as container data type. Why we call it container data type is that the variable we do check to know the type of data that is assigned there has a multiple values that they are holding. It's like a container with so many values, maybe different or the same data type that you assign to a particular variable. So it's now that variable is like a container of more than one values, and you can still check what type of data is that container. So the first one we have is what we call the list data type. This list data type is ordered, mutable, and allows duplicate. What we mean by allowing duplicate is that in this syntax, For example, the syntax says that value 1, comma, value 2, value 3 till value n. That means it can have so many values inside. Assuming that your value 2 is represented with maybe a number 20, you can also put up 20 here too. That means you can duplicate a particular value. You can have 20, 20, 20. When you have a list, it allows duplicate. And also it is mutable. What it means by that is mutable is that you can alter the values you have created. And when they talk about being ordered, means that any first value you added will remain your first value. Second value you added will remain your second value. Third value you added must remain your third value. And also, for you to, when you see some certain code in Python, for you to know whether it is a list or not, even without checking the type, is to check those values anytime they are enclosed in a block bracket. Such container will be referred to as a list. For example, assuming that we created something like this, let me remove this. Something like this, which is variable name, which all of us know. So we can change this. Maybe let's change the variable name to something like my list. This is still an accepted variable name because it started with an alphabet. It has an underscore and so on. So this list, we have a block bracket opening, closing, which implies that 1 is our first value, OB is another data type, which is second value. We have 3, third value, 5.6, our fourth value, true, which is a Boolean, is our fifth value. So even if we ask computer to print out this for us in the console, computer will still show us the content of this. Then if we ask computer what is the type of this, using the built-in function called type, the computer will tell us that this container type, that's what, because it has more than one values inside, is a list container type. Is that understood? Any question?
Yeah, I think Emanuela is asking what are the examples of mutable and immutable IDs?
Okay. For example, I think I will still come to the mutable down. Okay, when I will explain the set, I will explain the mutable aspect. When I will explain the set. So now, since we have this particular list that has how many value? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can still access each of these lists, each of these individual values through what we call an index value. What we mean by, since our list is ordered, what we mean by ordered is that we type this one first, this one second, third, fourth, fifth. Computer will take it in the order which we typed it and assign an index value to starting from the first one. The index value that the computer assigns starts from 0, which implies that our 1 has an index value of 0, OB has index value of 1, 3 has index value of 2, 5.6 has index value of 3, and true, we have index value of 4. So now, this is the syntax we use to access any value inside our list. For example, the variable name we gave our list is my list. Anytime we tell the computer, I want to see my list with index value, maybe 1, which is OB. Once you execute this, computer will print out OB. It will go and pick that particular index. And also, we can also check what is the data type of that index value 1. Just have to enclose this one with our type function, built-in function. Ask what is the type of OB. It's not telling us that OB is a string. Are you guys following? Any question before I move to Emanuela's question? If someone has a question,
Yeah, I think Olatunde, yeah.
Yeah, you can ask.
All right, thank you, sir. Please, I just wanted you to confirm what the difference between list type and array type is. Thank you.
List and what?
List and array.
Okay. No. We don't use array in Python. Are you there?
No.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. In other programming language, we make use of array, but we don't use it in Python. And also in array,
Okay,
we talk
you.
about index also. So we can check the data type of a particular index by putting the type and also the variable name and the index you want to check. Assuming that we change this thing to the one of index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe index 4, which is Boolean, and ask the computer, it will show us Boolean. So something you have to have in mind anytime you are talking about the list is that it is enclosed in a block bracket. It's very important for you to bear this in mind. Anything enclosed in a block bracket is always a list in Python. The next one we have is what we call set. Set is unordered, mutable, and you cannot have a duplicate. No duplicate. Remember, in our list, we can have duplicates, but here you cannot duplicate a value in a set. And our set, anytime you see values enclosed in a curly bracket, we refer to that as a set in Python. And this is the syntax that we use to create our set in Python. Now, since it is unordered, we cannot make use of index value to check a particular value inside the set. Unlike in the list, since it is ordered, any first number we type there, the computer already knows that this is the first number. You can easily use your index. So how we assess the values in sets is through looping. You can loop through the information inside, which is what I will teach next in the next class for us to understand how looping works. So if we want to create a set like we have here, so if you notice here, assuming that we have 6, 6, 5, this 5 and 5 is duplicated, 6, 6, 6 is also duplicated. But we are informed that you cannot duplicate any value. So when you execute this, computer will just select only one from this to display for you because you are not allowed to duplicate to duplicate values. Now, when we talk about mutable, there is this function which we call add, inbuilt function, and then remove. Since if we use this function to ask the computer to add 9, what this function is doing now is that we already have a set, and also want to add an extra value inside that particular set. That is what this add function is doing. So when we add this, and now ask the computer to show me my set, you find out that we have added 9. This is what we mean by set is mutable, which means we can order, this is what we created earlier, but we are now altered it by adding extra value inside. This is what we mean by something is mutable, as we explained over here, whose value can be changed after it has been created. So we have something we created before, but we are now changing it by adding a new value inside that same variable name that we created. That is mutable. Or also, assuming we want to remove, we can tell the computer we want to remove 2 from this set. So you find out that it has removed 2, and we have only 3, 4, 5, 6. So it means that we can, that this particular set is mutable. Emanuela, has that answered your question? Emanuela? Since Emanuela is not here with us again.
Yeah, she is. I think she also asked, why did the value reduce? I think so, Emmanuel. I think it's because we use the remove function.
Yeah,
right?
We removed a particular value, which is 2. And remember that we have duplicates here. So since it is a set, the computer would just take only one value, because our set is unordered, mutable, and no duplicate is allowed. So we have a duplicate of 5 and 5. Computer will just choose only 1 5. We have 6 into 3 times to choose only 1, because duplicate is not allowed in set. So while now the 2 is not here again, is because we use this built-in function, which is remove, to show that this thing is mutable, that we can alter the values that we created. That is why it reduced. Is that okay, Manuela? Okay. So the next one we have here is tuple. Your tuple is ordered, immutable, and allows duplicate. You can duplicate your values here. You can allow, it is in ordered form. And since it is in ordered form, means that we can make use of index to the values. Since the ordered form means that the first letter we impute there is known as the first, the second one impute is known as the second. So anytime you want to access it, you can easily refer to the index based on how you imputed those values in your tuple. So the syntax we use here is variable name. Oh, sorry for this. This is meant to be. So you enclose it in your normal parentheses. So we refer to that as tuple. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1. When you ask the computer what is the type of this, it will tell you that it's tuple. So you have to take note that when you have collection of values that is enclosed in parentheses assigned to a variable, that container type or the variable type will be a tuple. It is immutable. You cannot add or alter anything you have added here, unlike the way we did in set. It is not allowed in tuple. You cannot decide to remove 2 from this value. If you want to remove 2, maybe the only way you can do it is for you to create another new variable and also put your desired numbers. But for this one that you have created, you cannot alter it anytime you are working with tuple. So we can also decide to pick out a particular tuple value and decide to pick a particular index. Maybe we'll say index 3. It is 5 because when we check 0, 1, 2, 3, that is why the computer picked out 5. Any questions so far? Okay. So the next one is what we call dictionary. Now, for your dictionary, it's what we call key value pair. In your dictionary, you have what you call a key and what you call a value. If you remember all other containers that we dealt with, they always make use of only values. But this dictionary makes use of a key and also value. What it implies is that inside this container for your dictionary, any value that you want to impute must have a particular name or label that will be holding that value for you. What do we mean by that from the example? Assuming that we want to provide something like name, age, gender. For this first value, which is Chinedu, the key here is the name and the value is Chinedu. So now, computer know that the name inside here, which is the key name, is holding a value called Chinedu. It's also aware that a key called age is holding a value called 40. A gender is holding a value called female. Now, this Chinedu is a strange value. This one is an integer, and this one is also a string, which implies that you can have a combination of more than one data type inside a dictionary. It is unordered, which it implies is that we put Chinedu first does not mean that computer is taking it that it is Chinedu. And since it is unordered, we cannot access those values with an index number. So we can only do that through looping. You have to loop inside the container to pick anything you want to pick. So in our next class, I will take you guys around the looping that you can do in Python programming. Any question? Okay. So now, we have some built-in functions that you are meant to. Someone asking a question. Okay, we have some built-in functions in Python. Like I told you before, that when you talk about built-in function are just a code that are, you don't need to call it.
Sorry, Mr. Chinedu. I think Ebuka has his hands is up, so I think he has a question. Yeah, Ebuka, you can go ahead.
Unmute your mic. Or did he type anything in the chat?
Yeah, he just typed. So he asked, how do we use these functions and data types like tuple, list, dictionary, and so on?
You know, this the aim of what we are doing here. The aim of what we are doing here. Sorry, my camera is calling me. So, sorry for the interruption. This tuple, dictionary, and so on. You as a data scientist supposed to know the data type. Knowing the data type will help you to know the actions you can perform in that data. That is the reason why you should know all those data types, so that you will not be talking about modifying a particular data that is inside somewhere that is not mutable. So if you modify it, you are wasting your time because it will not work. So knowing the data type will help you to know what and what can I do in this particular data, because if they give you some data that is in a JSON format, it do come in a dictionary way. So in a dictionary format. So when you are working in such data, you have to know what can I do in that particular data. Is that understood?
Okay, and just to add more insight, right? So what we're doing is basically introduction of terms, right? So that when we start dealing with data, you can easily understand, what's going on and where, right? Just trying to introduce those concepts, right? I understand concepts are better understood with real life examples, right? So what we're doing just now is, okay, these are this, these are that, and these are this, right? So that once we get into the hands-on, playing with data, you can now understand, okay, you'll be like, okay, so this was what we were trying to explain earlier, right? So that it now makes sense. So we'll just get the idea, and then when we get into the concept perspective, it should be easily understand. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't know what's happening to my camera too.
Yeah, Mr. Chinedu, I think you can ignore the camera if it's giving you issues,
Some of my village people. Okay, so now some built-in function in Python. Maybe, for example, we can decide to know the length of a particular container. how many values are inside. Let's say, for example, there are all those examples we did. So the syntax we use is this len. When you use len and input your variable name inside this parentheses, what the computer will return for you is the length of the values inside that particular container. Let's say, for example, we have how many values here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we should be asking what is the length of tuple value, the computer will return 5 to us. Or any of them, once you use the length, the computer will return value. Now, something like maximum and minimum and sum can only be used where you have a numeric data. What do I mean by numeric data? When you have inside the container is made up of numbers, be it whole number or numbers with decimal. When you have combination of strange data type and numeric, you cannot be asking computer to give you the maximum, because even as a human being, someone cannot ask you to give us the maximum number from maybe where did we use something like that? Like here now, this is my list that you should give me the maximum number. Because computer will be cross-checking it with everything on the list. Will be how are we going to decide if OB is maximum or not, more than one. So in such situation, computer will throw up error to you. So where you will make use of this built-in function max, min, and sum is where you have a numeric values. So for example, if we should come here and ask the computer, we want to know the max of my list, it will throw error. What is telling you now, not supported between instances of that will have a string and also we have integer. It cannot be able to pick out what is the maximum. So, but assuming that we have something like my set.
Okay, should I start coming out? All right, thank you.
You can ask what is the maximum of my set. It speaks out 6. So the maximum value we have inside here is 6. The same thing is also with minimum. Is 3. Where you use some of these things is that you can have a data, maybe with people's age. You can decide to know people's age. Maybe now they gave you data of 100,000 instances. That 100,000 instances, you cannot go from up till down to check what is the maximum age that we have here. What is the minimum age that we have? You can easily use this particular function to check your maximum age and also the minimum age that you have. I think when we start working with the data, there are so many other things that we explore. This is just for you to have an idea of what happens in Python environment. So the another one we have is the sum. Also, we use sum where we have numeric values, because you cannot be adding a number and a string together. So here now, all of them are numeric, so we can easily use sum here, because computer can easily add up everything we have inside here and it give us 16, 15. That's added from the beginning till the end. But if you go where we have combination of numbers and strange values, the computer will throw up an error to you. So any question? Do you have a question? Okay. So
Yeah, I think Ibuka is asking
why is my chat not
maybe
okay?
close and
I'm waiting.
reopen. Yeah, I think he's asking what yes, that's it.
Okay, what of in the case of duplicate values? Okay, if a data given to you has duplicate value, maybe two people has the same age or have the same CGPA, such data will not be in a set. You have to avoid putting such data in a set, because if it is in a set, computer will truncate all the duplicate values. That is why you have to know one that is tuple, the one that can accommodate duplicates, and the one that cannot accommodate duplicates. Are you there? So if it has duplicate, you have to avoid sets anytime. In the sets where you have this and this using minimum, how did it sum up to 3? Okay, let me check. Okay, we removed 2. So if we should, so 2 is now our minimum. It's because we use, when we are checking the mutable and immutable, when we said my set dot remove. So computer will execute this remove and truncate out 2. Now this point now will be checking what is the minimum here. That is why we have 3, because we removed 2 from the set. Okay, so think, is there any other thing we do know? Sometimes. Okay. Okay, we talked about avoiding functions. Maybe let me just give an example of this so that today. Assuming that we say that print, like all of us know that print function helps us to display something on the console, is equal to maybe 40. For example, we have assigned 40 inside the print. So if we have another code where we are saying company equals to maybe Google. If we ask the computer to print company for us, it's now throwing an error that int object is not callable because we have used this 40 to go and replace our function. That is why we say we should avoid using function name as a variable name, because it will alter the built-in function that computer will not be seeing it as a function now and be seeing it as a variable. So in such situation, how you can easily manage this is when you use a keyword called delete. So when you use the keyword del, what this thing will do is that it will go up to go and check where you made use of that data type and delete it out from the computer. Not like it will come and wipe this one that you type here, but from the background where the code that is controlling everything we are doing here, to remove it from the memory. So when you now execute, it will print because this particular keyword there, which is to delete the content of print, have removed everything here and allow the print to happen the normal way it's supposed to function. So that is what we mean by avoid using a function name as a variable name. Is that understood? Oh, okay. So any other question? Okay. So Mr. Stan, I will share the data to you so that you now give it to them. So all of them will upload it in our next class in their own dashboard.
Environment. Okay.
Their own environment,
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay,
that
cool stuff.
anytime we are authoring data, they will be authoring it at their own end too.
On their own
And
end. Okay, cool.
yeah, so that next time, I'll try to explain some certain things in the environment to you so that you will understand, okay, this is how we do this and so on.
Okay, cool stuff. Cool stuff. Thanks, Mr. Chinedu, for your time today. It's been awesome and insightful, right? So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, we'll keep communicating on the group chat, right? If you have any questions from the previous class, just make reference to the videos, ask your questions. Our instructors, myself, were there. We would answer as best as we can, right? Just so you know, this training is not a paid training, right? We do not solicit for funds. We don't ask you to pay for any knowledge being shared here, right? And I was thinking today if I might give out certificate of participation, but I'm still thinking about that just so for those that might need that for documentation, right? So, but yeah, let's see how that goes. Probably towards the end of the class, we'll get to figure that out, right? So, thanks everyone again for joining in, and do have a wonderful evening. Thanks, Mr. Chinedu, once again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the evening.